This is the third video in the DNP series. In this video, I will demonstrate a methodical search in PubMed. A methodical search might be part of a systematic review that you might be conducting or not. In any case, the additional videos will cover searching in CINAHL, and PsycInfo, and Cochrane. So this is the search term table that was presented in the previous video, and I'm going to use this table to guide my search in PubMed now. Now, to access PubMed, you always want to go through the databases on the Pace University Library website, clicking on the letter P, and then scrolling down to PubMed. And the reason you need to always do this is in order to link to the full text material that the library provides. Just have to get authenticated. Okay. If we were going to immediately search for articles just very quickly about something that we're interested in, we could just immediately type something into the search box and get some results. However, we are not doing a simple search like that. We are conducting a methodical search. So I'm going to actually go back to the MESH database where I was in the previous videos, and I'm going to build my search there. Now, the way I do this is one column at a time. I start with my P column, heart failure, and then move on and search each of the following columns. All the terms in the columns are joined by OR, so everything in each column should be fairly synonymous. I'm not going to demonstrate the search for all the columns. I'll do the first couple, and then I'll speed it up a little bit so this video won't be super long. So I'll start with P and heart failure. So I type it in. I already know this is the MESH term. That's why I recorded it in my search term table. But I still want to type it into the MESH database, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So here's my match. I check the box and add to search builder. So by using the MESH database, I can build my search in this one search builder box, which just makes things fairly simple. Now, I have another MESH term in this column, which is cardiomyopathies. This is why it is very important to type the term in, even though I already know it exists, because I need to click on the title in the search results. And in this case, I want to make sure that my search results do not include all of these subheadings under cardiomyopathies. I may be interested in maybe one or two of those, and I'll search for them separately, but I don't want all of this stuff. And the way I turn that off is by checking this box, do not include MESH terms found below this term. I come back up to the top, change this to OR, because I'm building one column, and then I click Add to Search Builder. So now I have two MESH terms in my box. And then I go back and look at the table, and I look to make sure I've captured all the MESH terms, and I haven't. I have one more, cardiomyopathy dilated. So I'm going to paste that here, search, and let's see. I'm pretty sure there's nothing below this term, right? So I don't need to check the box. I can just come up here, change this to OR, and add to search builder. So now I have my MESH terms, and now I'm going to add my keywords manually in this box. So I'm going to type OR, heart failure, putting my search terms between quotation marks. Cardiac failure, myocardial failure. Dilated cardiomyopathy, dilated cardiomyopathy. And I'm actually going to use the asterisk there to make sure that I get all forms of that root cardiomyopathy. So essentially the singular or the plural form of the word. And the same with congestive cardiomyopathy or myopathies. And then I just want to take a look at my table and make sure that I've recorded everything, excuse me, in the table in the first column for mesh, and I have. Then I check here to make sure I don't have any typos, to make sure I've got all my quotation marks, all my ors, no misspelling errors. Okay, everything looks good. And then now I search PubMed. And there's no search history button, but if I click on advanced, I can see my search history here. And in fact, let me clean this up a little bit and delete. Some of the stuff. Okay, so this was, it says search number 3, but this is my first column. I'm actually going to record that on my search term table so I don't lose track of things. So I've printed out a copy of my search term table so it's easy for me to work with. Now, for the second column, go back to mesh and look at my column, self-care. This one's simple. So I start with self-care. And I must click on the title because I must restrict to this term. I don't want the terms that fall below it in the hierarchy. And then I have self-management. Change this to or and add to the search builder, and then manually add the keywords or self-care or self-management. It doesn't matter if I put hyphens after self here or not in the keywords. I'll get the same results either way. Check for typos and correctness, and then search PubMed. Go to advanced to see the history. So search number 4 is my second column. Now, to speed things up a little bit, I am going to copy and paste the searches for the rest of the columns. I've recorded them in a Word document here. So this is my I column about education. Oops. I'm going to copy that. I can just paste it right here. And then I'm going to copy my next one, patient-centered. Then I have knowledge or quality of life. And then finally, I have the readmissions column. I conducted the search previously and then isolated each column, the block of text for each column, just so I could speed this video up. So I should have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I want to make a point, which is sometimes, even after we've put a lot of time into building a search term table and deciding which columns to include or exclude or modify, we might not be finished with the modifications and edits. So just let it be known that I'm going to run this search, but if I don't think I have a good number of results, or too many results, which is less common, I might modify, I might remove one of my columns. This is not out of the ordinary. So let's see what happens here. So the first thing I have to do is come down to, generally I start at the bottom, add query, and it automatically populates the query box. And then for the next column, I add with and so on. And sort of hard to see in the box, but I just want to make sure I didn't accidentally skip a column. Looks like everything's there. And now I can run my search. Okay, 5 results, and that's actually without any kind of limits. So even though these are probably highly relevant 5 articles, I don't want to have such a small number. So what I'm going to do is go back to the advanced. Now I did this on purpose because I wanted to make this point that sometimes we end up dropping columns. I'm going to delete this search. And now I'm going to come back and I'm going to skip the column, which is the one with the smallest number, 64,000, patient-centered. This is the one where I didn't have any mesh terms that matched my keywords, which was sort of a red flag anyway. There's typically at least some controlled vocabulary. So I thought I'd give it a try, and I think this is probably really bringing my number down. So I'm going to skip number 6. So I'm going to start again. Make sure that box is empty. Okay, add query. Number 4, add with and. Number 5, add with and. Now I am skipping number 6. Number 7, add with and. Number 8, add with and. So now I'm searching for 5 columns instead of 6. Okay, so now I have 92 results. I'm more satisfied with that number, but just to be clear, to complete my presentation here, if I'd like an even larger number, what I should do is add additional search terms. So one thing that comes to mind is the knowledge or quality of life column. I could have added just knowledge. I know that's a mesh term and a CINAHL heading, but I thought it was too broad for our purposes. However, I could do that, and I'm sure that would give me additional results. And there may be other keywords that could have been added that I didn't initially consider. So this is an iterative process. There's no perfect way to do it, and you definitely will end up making some modifications. Well, likely you will end up making some modifications during your search experience. So now, 92 results. One way to save the search, you must be logged in to save a search or save the articles. So definitely make sure that you've created your account with MyNCBI. And if I go to create alert, I don't think this is particularly user-friendly or obvious. Go to create alert. This is where you can save the search. So get rid of all this stuff in there and just call it, search example or DNP on this one. And then all the search terms are in there. And then you can indicate whether you'd like to receive email updates, etc. And you do need to come down and save it. A couple more points I'd like to make. Right now we're looking at the articles with the most recent on top, most recently published. If I click this arrow, everything will become the opposite, and now we start with the oldest article from 94. Click the arrow and then return. Either way, it's still going to say most recent, so it's important to know that it's about this little arrow here. could also change to best match, if you'd like. Display options, you can change to abstract. That's probably the most popular display option, simply because you learn more about the article immediately on this screen. We'll take a few minutes. Right now I'm displaying 100 results per page, which includes all my 92 results. So you could change the display option, and then there are some other tools here as well. You can email, you can save citations to file, you can choose the format. I guess I would typically choose abstract. Some of this just gets very technical. It just depends on your personal needs and purposes. So you could experiment with some of these things. But essentially, create alert saves the search. And the other way to save the search is probably even easier than that. You come down here to your search history, click this little caret, and copy this entire text block here. You want to use that bottom text block instead of the top one. This doesn't include any kind of, the first one sometimes will have a date limit or something that doesn't work with copying and pasting, but in this case, actually, they look identical. So copy the text block and then email it to yourself or put it into a Google document, wherever you'd like to save it. And then when you return to PubMed, you can just paste that text block in, and you'll find the same exact search results. And if I wanted to apply some filters over here, probably a good idea to look at all the literature, not just the last 5 years when you're conducting something like a systematic review. But if you did want to see just like the very latest, you could limit to last year. What are the 9 most recently published articles on this? And you can apply other limits as well. However, with a methodical or systematic review, we don't typically limit to article type or anything. We want to see everything that's out there. So the next video will be a demonstration of the same search in the CINAHL database.